Imagine for a moment that you are surrounded by people who seem to be constantly rewarded. They get the promotions, they receive the compliments, they win the bonuses and the applause. And you, who also gave your best, who also committed your heart and soul, remain unnoticed, invisible. A subtle ache grows inside, a silent tension pulling at your spirit. The question inevitably arises, why them and not me? It's not envy, it's confusion. It's the deep, almost painful conviction that you too deserve to be seen, to be valued. And yet you stand there wondering if the universe is deaf to your efforts. Perhaps you've asked yourself in quiet moments, what is the unseen difference that creates this painful divide? Carl Jung, the master of the human psyche, offered a profound insight. Life does not reward actions alone. Life rewards standards. It reflects, like a mirror, the silent agreements we make within ourselves. Jung believed that what you accept, consciously or unconsciously, shapes the entire landscape of your life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate, he wrote. Think about that. The invisible patterns you carry, the thresholds you have silently accepted, are what the universe reads and responds to. The true battleground is not outside. It's within the standards you enforce or allow to erode in silence. Look around you. Your environment, your relationships, your daily experiences, none of them are coincidences. They are reflections of the standards you have either set firmly or neglected through passive tolerance. If you find yourself wondering why others advance while you remain stagnant, ask not what they are doing differently. Ask what they are refusing to accept that you still endure. This simple shift in questioning changes everything. As it is written in the scriptures, according to your faith let it be done to you. Matthew 9:29. Your standards are acts of faith. They declare to the universe what you truly believe you deserve. Today, we will explore the sacred art of raising your standards, a journey Jung called the path of individuation. This is not about arrogance, it's not about entitlement, it's about remembering the divine image etched into your soul, the image you have slowly covered with compromises and fears. The moment you decide to no longer accept less than what your soul truly seeks, you awaken forces within you that have long been dormant. You cease to beg for recognition and instead begin to command it silently, through presence, through vibration, through the silent authority of elevated standards. And as we move forward, I invite you to pause and reflect. Where in your life have you silently accepted less than what you know, deep down, you were made for? What invisible contracts have you signed with mediocrity, fear, or doubt? Keep these questions close because in the next steps, we will uncover how rewriting these internal agreements will not just change your results, it will change your entire existence. The shift you've been longing for begins here, in the unseen spaces of your own standards. Most of the standards that shape your life today were never consciously chosen by you. They were inherited, absorbed like invisible ink onto the pages of your unconscious mind during the early years of your existence. Carl Jung described this as the formation of complexes, intense systems of ideas and emotions that silently pull the strings of our behavior. You think you are deciding freely, but most of the time you are merely playing out an ancient script written by the hands of parents, teachers, society, and survival instincts. These complexes sculpt the invisible architecture of your worthiness, your relationships, your ambitions, the very lens through which you perceive reality. Maybe you grew up in a home where affection had to be earned, where dreams were mocked, where speaking your truth was punished. Without realizing it, you may have absorbed toxic inner contracts. I must dim my light to be accepted. I should expect little to avoid disappointment. I am only valuable when I please others. These are not harmless thoughts. They are living codes embedded deep in your psyche, whispering limits into your daily life. Jung warned that unless these complexes are dragged into the light of awareness, they will continue to govern your destiny, and you will believe it was simply meant to be. Wherever you feel stuck, drained, or consistently disappointed, you are seeing the reflection of these unconscious standards. It is not bad luck. It is not injustice. It is the mirror of what your soul has been silently agreeing to endure. When you tolerate jobs that empty you, relationships that diminish you, self-talk that belittles you, you are not just surviving, you are reinforcing a blueprint of limitation. And every time you accept less than your true worth, you reinforce the walls around your own potential. I invite you now to take the first bold step toward transformation. Write in the comments, "I am ready to discover my hidden blocks." Why write it? Because writing is the first physical manifestation of a desire. When you declare your readiness, you ignite the energy of change. Your words become a signal, not just to your own mind, but to the entire universe, that you are no longer willing to live in unconscious patterns. Your declaration today is not a wish, it is a beginning. Hold on to this courage, because what lies ahead is not just an intellectual shift. It is a sacred rebellion against every silent agreement you never chose, but have unknowingly lived by. And as you awaken, a new reality, one designed by your conscious soul, will begin to emerge from the ashes of the old. Raising your standards is not merely a matter of hoping for better outcomes. It is an act of sacred defiance. It is the decision to stand in the invisible marketplace of life and silently declare, "I will no longer accept crumbs where a feast was meant for me." Those who live extraordinary lives are not the ones who wish harder. They are the ones who refuse to tolerate what diminishes their spirit. Look closely and you will see. The true difference is not in talent, not in luck, but in the invisible line they have drawn around their worth. Think about someone you deeply admire. What sets them apart is not just what they do, it is what they refuse to allow. They do not invest their energy in relationships that drain them. They do not sacrifice their well-being to please others. They do not allow fear to govern their dreams. Their standards are non-negotiable, and because of that, their lives reflect a different level of order, abundance, and peace. Jung understood that true elevation begins not with ambition, but with self-respect so fierce that compromise becomes unthinkable. This clarity is not arrogance, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that lowering yourself to be accepted by the wrong people or by outdated circumstances is the slowest form of spiritual suicide. True self-love is the fire that burns away false loyalty to mediocrity. Jung would say that this is where the real transformation begins, when you recognize that life will always match the vibration of your internal standards, never your words, never your wishes, but your silent agreements with yourself. Pause for a moment and ask, what have I been tolerating that my soul quietly weeps over? What silent, painful compromises have I called normal simply because they are familiar? Sometimes the most dangerous prisons are the ones we build with habits too small for the soul we carry. And every day spent living below your highest truth tightens those invisible chains a little more. Sometimes the most dangerous prisons are the ones built from habits too small for the vastness of the soul. And without noticing, we wrap ourselves tighter inside expectations that were never truly ours. Yet deep within, a quiet unrest stirs, a silent knowing that there is more, that we were never meant to shrink to fit a life too narrow for our spirit. It is within this quiet discontent that the first flicker of true transformation is born, for the soul will always rebel against what cages it. And if you listen carefully, you will hear it calling you to a deeper encounter, not with the world outside, but with the hidden landscapes within, where shadows long forgotten wait for your return. Beneath every standard we have passively accepted, there lies a shadow, a part of us that once decided it was safer to hide than to hope. Carl Jung called this the shadow self. Not the enemy, but the forgotten, the exiled, the silenced. It carries the memories of every time we lowered our voice to avoid conflict, every time we accepted less to avoid loneliness, every time we betrayed our own heart for the illusion of safety. Facing the shadow is not an act of judgment. It is an act of deep compassion. It is saying, I see you, I understand why you did what you did, but we are ready to choose differently now. To raise your standards is not simply to change your mind. It is to confront every belief, every wound, every story that once made survival the priority over truth. It is to recognize that the walls you once needed to protect yourself have now become the cages that limit your life. Jung taught that true transformation does not occur through denial or avoidance, but through direct, courageous confrontation. Without facing what is hidden, any new standard you try to build will crumble under the weight of old fears you refuse to name. And this confrontation is not gentle. It feels like fire, the ancient alchemical process of calcinatio, where all that is impure, fearful, or false is burned away. It is uncomfortable. It challenges everything you thought you needed to survive. Yet in this burning, something sacred happens. You begin to glimpse the self that was never broken, never small, never powerless. You realize that true elevation does not come from adding layers, but from shedding what was never yours to carry. Perhaps you feel it now, a subtle resistance, a hesitation, a part of you pulling back, whispering, "Stay safe, stay small." This voice is not your enemy. It is the echo of an old agreement you once made with fear. And now, with awareness blooming in your heart, you can choose to release it. Not with force, not with hatred, but with the gentle, unwavering authority of someone who knows that they are destined for more than mere survival. And so, as the old structures tremble within you, a new clarity begins to rise. A realization that every relationship you hold, every connection you nourish, is also a reflection of these internal standards. What you tolerate in others mirrors what you believe about yourself. And in the quiet spaces of your life, the call to re-examine these bonds grows louder, waiting for you to listen. Every relationship you hold is a mirror, sometimes kind, sometimes harsh, reflecting the standards you have chosen for yourself. Jung understood that life does not give us what we think we deserve. It gives us what we are willing to tolerate. Where there is neglect, there was once silent permission. Where there is disrespect, there was once an invisible contract signed in fear. No relationship is accidental. Every connection is an echo of the agreements we made, often without even realizing, about what we are worthy to receive. The moment you decide to raise your internal standards, the world around you trembles and reshapes. You stop fighting for the bare minimum. You stop explaining your needs to those committed to misunderstanding them. You no longer chase validation in places where your soul is asked to shrink. Instead, your presence shifts, quietly, firmly, and the relationships that can honor your light will rise to meet you. Those that cannot will naturally fall away. There is no need for bitterness. There is only the quiet dignity of alignment. Boundaries are not walls built from anger. They are thresholds built from self-respect. When you honor your worth, you no longer apologize for needing space, clarity, or truth. Jung reminded us, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Let irritation teach you. Let discomfort illuminate the places within you where old standards still linger, not as a weapon against others, but as a window into the places within yourself still yearning to be claimed. Write in the comments, "I am ready to create relationships that honor my worth." Let your words be a private revolution made visible. A signal, quiet but powerful, that the age of compromise is ending within you. And as this internal revolution deepens, a mysterious force begins to move around you, the invisible currents Jung called synchronicities. When you shift inside, the world outside shifts too, and opportunities, encounters, and new paths once hidden start to reveal themselves with startling precision. The moment you begin to raise your internal standards, something extraordinary happens. Life itself starts to rearrange around you. Carl Jung called these mysterious shifts synchronicities, meaningful coincidences without apparent cause, yet dripping with undeniable purpose. Doors open where there were once walls. People arrive just when you need them. Opportunities, ideas, and insights seem to fall into your hands as if summoned by an unseen hand. It is not magic. It is the universe responding to the new blueprint you have etched into your soul. These synchronicities are not accidents. They are the external echo of an internal evolution. When your vibration changes, when your silent standards ascend, the world cannot help but realign. Reality bends around the strength of a soul that knows its worth. Jung witnessed it again and again in his patients. Profound inner change always precipitated visible shifts in the outer world. It is as if life listens more carefully once you stop negotiating your value. You may notice that situations once impossible suddenly unfold with ease. Relationships once toxic naturally dissolve, making space for richer connections. Careers that once felt stagnant crack open to reveal new possibilities. What once required force and struggle now seems to happen almost effortlessly. But this is not ease born of passivity. It is ease born of fierce, silent clarity. The clarity of a soul that no longer tolerates what diminishes it. Notice too how vitality begins to return. Where once there was exhaustion, there is now momentum. Where once there was dullness, there is now fire. Raising your standards frees the energy once trapped in internal conflict and self-betrayal. Jung taught that repression, the act of denying our true needs, drains the psyche. But honoring your deeper truths releases this hidden reservoir of life force, setting your entire being ablaze with purpose. And yet, even as these luminous changes begin to appear, another force stirs quietly beneath the surface, a force that will test your commitment to this new path. Resistance, both from within and from the world around you, because no true transformation comes without friction, and it is within this sacred tension that the next phase of your evolution demands to be born. Growth rarely feels like a gentle unfolding. More often it feels like friction, tension, heat pressing against the bones of who you thought you were. When you raise your standards, resistance rises like a shadow from deep within you. Old parts of your mind scream for safety, for familiarity, for the illusion of control. They whisper temptations, stay small, go back. It was easier before. Carl Jung called this the resistance of the shadow, not an enemy, but a test, a sacred initiation. For in truth, every soul must prove to itself that it is willing to pay the price of freedom, discomfort. Yet resistance does not only come from within, it also rises from the outside, from family, friends, society itself. The moment you step out of the old patterns, you disturb the collective agreement. Those around you, still bound by fear or habit, may feel threatened by your change. They may criticize you, shame you, withdraw their approval, not because they are evil, but because your evolution forces them to confront the areas where they have chosen to remain asleep. Jung referred to this as the pressure of the collective unconscious, the magnetic pull to fit back into the mold. In these moments, it is easy to mistake discomfort for a warning to stop, but discomfort is not your enemy. It is your confirmation. Scripture reminds us, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." James 1:12. The crown is not given to those who avoid tension. It is given to those who walk through it with open eyes and an unshakable heart. Every tremor of fear, every pang of loneliness, every moment of doubt is not a sign that you are failing. It is proof that you are transforming. There will be days when the old world calls you back, with its familiar comforts, its easy seductions, and there will be days when you question your own courage. This is natural. The ancient self, the one built on compromise and fear, will not surrender easily. It will fight to maintain its reign. But you are not that frightened self anymore. With every decision to honor your new standards, you weaken its grip. With every step forward, you strengthen the voice of the soul that has been waiting patiently for its rightful place at the center of your life. And as the inner battle intensifies, remember, you are not alone. Every soul that has ever broken free from unconscious bondage has walked this same narrow path. You are part of an ancient lineage of awakening. Hold steady through the storm, for beyond the resistance lies a life not merely improved, but entirely reborn. And as the old structures burn away, what remains is the raw, blazing clarity of who you truly are. Real transformation is rarely clean or pretty. It is more often a burning, a sacred fire that consumes every false identity, every expired story, every chain you once mistook for belonging. Jung spoke of the calcinatio, the alchemical fire that purifies the soul by reducing the old structures to ash. You feel it as restlessness, as grief, as the terrifying sense that everything you once knew is collapsing. But this is not destruction. It is preparation. The old self must die so that the true self, the one you buried beneath layers of survival, can finally breathe. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the fire that forges your rebirth. Every tear, every night of doubt, every aching surrender is a hammer striking against the old walls of your soul's prison. Jung understood that what we resist persists, but what we face with open arms is transformed. There is no way to bypass this fire. You cannot heal by avoiding it. You can only be reborn by walking through it, naked and unafraid, trusting that on the other side, something larger than survival is waiting for you. Many will turn back at this stage, mistaking the burning for punishment rather than purification. But those who stay, who breathe through the collapse, who choose trust over fear even when it shakes their bones, discover a treasure hidden in the ashes. They find the indestructible core of their being. They find the self not shaped by fear, but carved by destiny. And from this center, they begin to build a life not of compromises, but of conscious creation. Perhaps you feel it even now, that quiet flicker beneath the pain, that small but unwavering voice that says, "This ending is not my death, it is my beginning." This is your soul speaking, reminding you that no fire can destroy what is eternal within you. The flames only strip away what was never truly yours. The fire is fierce, yes, but so are you. And as the ashes settle, a new clarity emerges. The undeniable realization that if you are to live aligned with your highest truth, you must not only define your new standards, but defend them. Not through force, not through anger, but through the silent, steady power of a soul that knows exactly what it was born to embody. After the fire has passed and the ashes settle, a sacred task remains: to define and defend the new standards that will shape your rebirth. Jung taught that intention is the architect of destiny. Without conscious definition, the unconscious will resume its silent rule. If you do not decide who you are and what you will allow, old patterns will creep back in, as persistent as weeds reclaiming abandoned soil. This is not a moment for passivity. It is a moment for deliberate creation, for writing the new agreements of your soul with unwavering clarity. Take the time to define your standards now, not vaguely, not half-heartedly. In relationships, in work, in health, in self-worth, what will you no longer accept? What will you fiercely honor? Write them, speak them, hold them close as sacred vows. Jung warned that what remains unconscious manifests as fate. To escape the slow drift back into mediocrity, you must turn your vision into law, not through control, but through conviction. Your life bends to the standards you embody, not the ones you merely wish for. Defending these new standards will not always be easy. There will be moments when you are tempted to compromise for comfort, for approval, for the illusion of safety. But each act of defense strengthens the new reality you are building. Imagine a castle rising from the ruins of a burned village, stone by stone, wall by wall. Each boundary you enforce, each decision aligned with your new truth, is a stone set firmly into the foundation of your true life. This is how transformation becomes tangible, irreversible. Remember, the world will not celebrate your new standards at first. It will test them. It will ask if you are serious. It will send storms to shake your walls. And every time you choose to stand firm, you are not merely defending a preference. You are protecting a new way of being. You are telling the universe, this is who I am now, and I will not be moved. There is a silent power in such a soul, a radiance that does not beg to be seen but cannot be ignored. And in this silent, steady resilience, a deeper truth will unfold. A realization that raising your standards is not about achieving more or becoming better. It is about remembering who you have always been beneath the layers of fear and forgetting. It is about coming home to the life you were always meant to live, the life that now stands waiting on the other side of your courage. Somewhere deep inside, you have always known that you were never meant for a life of silent compromise. You were born to embody something larger, something sacred, something breathtaking. But years of conditioning taught you to shrink, to silence your brilliance, to trade your wild birthright for the safety of approval. Jung understood that the greatest tragedy is not the wounds inflicted upon us. It is the way we learn to inflict silence upon ourselves. Today, you stand at the crossroads between the small life you were taught to accept and the extraordinary life your soul has always whispered for you to claim. Choosing to raise your standards is not merely a decision about external circumstances, it is a decision about identity. It is the moment when you say, "I will no longer betray myself for anything or anyone." It is the end of sleepwalking through a world that benefits from your self-forgetting. It is the beginning of radical presence, where every step, every word, every relationship is infused with the fierce clarity of self-respect. You are not seeking validation. You are building a life so aligned with your truth that validation becomes irrelevant. The road ahead will not always be smooth. You will still encounter storms, doubts, and the ghosts of old fears, but the difference now is profound. You will meet these storms not as a victim, but as a creator. You will know that every challenge is a final test of the old life you are leaving behind. Jung taught that true individuation, true wholeness, comes not by avoiding suffering, but by transforming it into a gateway for awakening. Every moment you choose your new standards over your old fears, you step more fully into the extraordinary life that was always waiting for you. Your true life does not begin the day you achieve a goal, earn a title, or receive recognition. It begins the moment you refuse to betray your soul one moment longer. Raising your standards is not an act of pride. It is an act of remembrance. It is the sacred declaration, "I am no longer available for anything less than my true self." And when you live from this place, not just occasionally but daily, your very existence becomes a quiet revolution. You no longer chase miracles, you become one. If this journey has stirred something within you, know that you are only at the threshold of what is possible. I invite you to subscribe to this channel and continue exploring the mysteries of the human psyche and the sacred architecture of feelings. Your awakening is not an isolated event. It is part of a larger unfolding, a rising tide of souls reclaiming their truth. As Carl Jung reminded us, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. It is time to awaken fully. It is time to step into the life that has been waiting for you all along.